life. It's time-stoppingly beautiful and sad all at once. Yeah, it's happy and painstakingly melancholic. It's the stories, and the people, and the relationships, and how they go right and how they go wrong, and who's in control of that. No matter what you believe, things can go right or they could go wrong. Seems like half the time it's random chance. And the other half, it's our efforts paying off dividends, positively or negatively. Guess it's worth it to put in effort to have good outcomes as much as we can. To only take calculated risks. And then to know that even when we take a risk, there's a probability things will go right or things will go wrong. It's part of the nature of risk taking. And then the other side is everyone else and everything else, animate and inanimate decisions, cause and effect. Other people and their decisions, their risks, their risk taking, and how that interacts with you and your decisions and your risks and your risk taking and your decision making. Most often, when you do all of the things to be well structured and well organized, well reasoned, not overly emotional, following impulses, you're able to engineer pretty good outcomes, especially if you surround yourself with people who are doing the same. And you isolate yourself from people who are doing negative and harmful behaviors, thought patterns, belief systems, political, social, economic ideologies that result in catastrophe. There comes a time to make a decision who to associate with, who to dissociate with, how strong and how rigid those boundaries need to be, how tall to erect the fences between what you can tolerate and what you cannot tolerate. And then to know that when you make a decision to tolerate something, that means that there's still something that you have to tolerate. There's something that you don't want that's still a part of the package. Nobody's perfect, as far as I could tell. We have to learn to tolerate the things about ourselves and each other that's ugly, that's painful, that's stressful, that reminds us of suffering. Ultimately, in our relationships with each other, we will cause suffering to one another. We will cause grief and loss. if for no other reason than that we die. There's no perfect relationship because they always end. But because they end, we have an opportunity to cherish them more now that we're alive, and to respect each other more, and to be grateful to each other more, and to have mercy with each other more, and to have more forgiveness with each other when we do things out of alignment with beauty and love and goodness. And we know when that is. We know when we're doing things out of alignment, because we begin to feel numbness, internal numbness to our decisions, to our emotions. Guilt. When we stop feeling guilt, it's in a moment like this, you either go up or you go down. It's a fork in the road. You either fly or you crash. You either rise or you plateau, or you sink. It's a three-way fork. I guess plateau is not so bad, right? Just stay where you are. But who wants to stay where they are and do the same routine? If I do routine, I want my routines to take me higher, to where the routines themselves become unrecognizable. I'll keep the principles as routines, but the actual actions, I don't want actions to become routine. I don't want my thoughts to become routine. I don't want experience to become routine. It's boring to me. The principles, they can become routine. The ideas of what it is I'm doing, that can be a routine. But the actual content of my time, I want it to be advancing. And recently I don't feel like it's been advancing as much as it could be. And I think it's because I'm going slow in decision making. I'm going slow in my action taking for things I have decided I need to do quickly. Faster, más rápido. Más rápido. How long? How long? They say life is short, but it feels long. It's been going on and on and on. Right? Who alive can say life is short? Not me. It's been 30 years. It feels like an eternity. Seems obvious. Can't you see? What seems obvious to me? Somebody says I look like I'm from the 70s. Said because of the sideburns. You know, I don't want to find myself in a situation where most of the risk I'm experiencing is because of others. I feel like when I'm in and amongst others, most of the risk that I experience is from others, like in the city, or maybe even in town. There's risk. Like if I'm by myself, I'm not really too much for a risk to myself, I don't think. I mean, that's not true. I mean, I could take bad action, I could hurt myself, but that doesn't seem like something I'm going to do. But then again, I do behaviors that could drain my energy. But is that really risking me? It's risking potential. It's an interesting idea, risking potential. Because you have so much potential, especially, the younger you are, or the more that you build potential. It's a new idea. I've always heard of actualizing potential, where you take a certain amount of potential and you turn it into results. You turn it into who you actually are. But I think there's another idea of building potential. I mean, a baby has potential, right? But what potential do they have? You can't look at a baby and be like, oh, they have possibility, because they can build potential. But if a baby never builds potential, then it just stays a baby, which actually has little to no capacity to actualize any potential. A baby needs to grow physically, and then baby needs to grow mentally, in its intelligence, in its emotional capacity, and its understanding of its environment. And in so doing, it's building its potential to do, to be. Like studying. When you read a book and you're studying a concept, you're building potential, because now you have the potential, a greater potential to do more in a certain area. So even a 40, 50, 60, 70, 30, 20-year-old person can increase the amount of potential they have. See this tooth? His dentist said I should get it pulled. There's a whole cavity right there. I don't know if it gives me character or if I hate it. I definitely hate it. Wish I had her. I thought your teeth supposed to change the shape of your jaw as you lose teeth and whatnot. But I think my jaw is pretty symmetrical still. Talk about mewing. I don't understand mewing. I think I'm too old for it too. I heard some people talking about that. Anyway. Have a good day. We can do it. I can do it. Live. Make it through the end of the day. Forget that. Make it through the end of life without losing it. Who goes crazy in this world? When you see someone who's crazy on the street, who becomes that? Who? Does anyone have a story they could tell me of? Who becomes the crazy person on the street? Where do they come from? Before they were crazy. Was there ever a before? Wasn't there? And they were just a normal kid, just a happy kid, just playful. Well, crazy people can be happy. Maybe there's some more happy crazy people. So crazy is just illogical fantasy scenarios. And I've seen that already. I've seen people who I know who are knee deep in fantasy, illogical things that aren't or can't be in reality, but they believe it to be true. And they expect me to believe it, to see it the same way they do, to endorse or to appreciate what they're saying when it makes no sense. Why? Why do I have to agree with it when it makes no sense? But then you could make perfect sense and be crazy, right? Maybe I'm already crazy. Well, first of all, maybe I don't make perfect sense. You tell me. But let's say that I make perfect sense. I could still be crazy if I live crazily. My habits can add up to crazy. Right? Yeah, my habits can add up to crazy. Like, I could be relatively well-spoken, polished, especially on the outside, in the presentation. But, damn it. I was just thinking, like, I can't tell if I'm beautiful or if I'm very ugly. Can you? Can't tell. At one angle it's beautiful and the other angle it's very ugly. It's funny. People tell me one or the other depending on who's talking. But your habits can add up to very, very, very crazy. You know? You could be a well-spoken person and your standards of life could be crazy. You could be living in squalor and disgusting, dirty, unorganized chaos. Chaos. You could be living in chaos and unorganized mess, and your relationships with people could be in the trash. Well, then I guess you're crazy, right? I mean, when I think of crazy, I think of someone who's like out on the street, who's like yelling at the top of their lungs, saying stuff that nobody can understand, or they don't want to understand, whatever it is it's trying to say. But that's not it. There's also people who live in houses with their family who they come to you and they seem smart and they seem intelligent, and then they say something that just at least doesn't align with your belief. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's just, well, what's their belief that doesn't align with your belief? You know, you could look at someone who has faith in God and be like, oh, they're crazy. Because if you don't have that faith, there's no reason to believe that. And thus, you just come to the idea, oh, this person's crazy. You can look at someone who doesn't have faith in God and say, oh, that person's crazy. You know, because it doesn't align with your belief, the way that you look at the world. You say the world, oh, look at the world, you know, has to be God. To anyone who doesn't see that, it's crazy. Or you could see someone who has a different belief in God. You say, these people are crazy. How can they not see the true God? So crazy, I think maybe it's just people who see the world in different ways than you. And because you don't see it their way, the way that they see it seems entirely illogical, because the foundation of their thoughts and their actions and their lifestyle is based on their beliefs. What's a belief? Belief is a concept of meaning. Life is meaning. Life exists before meaning, also. Life exists to discover and build meaning. That's pretty good. Life defines meaning. Meaning exists within life. Life came first. We can create our own meaning in life. That's the process we're undergoing. So to be in life looking for meaning, pre-existing meaning, I don't know if that is a worthy endeavor. Because maybe there was no pre-existing meaning in that life itself. We as life itself define our own meanings and create our own meanings. Like me, for example, I'm seeking to create a beautiful meaning. I don't know what that means. But I'm creating it. I don't know what that will, I know what it means, but I don't know what it will manifest as. What will be a beautiful life for me? I guess the rest of ugly life, right? What would be an ugly life? Let's contrast it to that. Some parts of my life are already ugly. Like my face. No, I have a beautiful face as well as an ugly face. Depends. Oh wait, I have the wrong eye open. See all those pores and everything? That's proof of what? That it's hot? Say hello to my acne mark. My face used to be exploded with acne. You can't even really see much evidence of that anymore. Anyway, so meaning, we get to make our own meaning. I think that lowers the requirement, the expectation that we have to find pre-existent meaning. I think we should lessen the emphasis on finding pre-existent meaning. It's like the world is an unstructured place that life in its existence is seeking to add structure to. And to a certain extent, we get to decide as conscious decision makers what structure we add to life, to existence, to the reality. I don't know if that applies to our physical bodies, because we are organized following a blueprint that is generally beautiful. The human body, generally beautiful in its principles. And nature in general is generally beautiful in its principles. But who can argue that that was a conscious decision by, at least by us? I don't know. I mean, you could say generationally it might have been more or less a decision, I am looking for a beautiful woman, spouse. So am I not making a conscious decision by looking for a beautiful woman, a beautiful spouse, to make a beautiful child with? Then isn't that child's beauty some part the result of a conscious decision by a human? Like, if I decided to mate with or if I only had the option of mating with a less beautiful spouse, woman, and then I created a less beautiful child, at least physically, then that too would be the result of a conscious decision made by a human, but just a less beautiful outcome. Right? So But I don't know. I mean, it's pretty damn similar to evolution, except maybe like a microevolution, as they call it. I don't know. I don't know. It's a conscious decision to choose who to mate with. But I believe in general, at least in the psychological realm, we have the ability to create meaning. And that's a lot of pressure. To create meaning, it's a lot of pressure. Because who are we to create meaning? Who am I to say what a thing means? What is it? What is a meaning? Well, when you're a baby, you have little to no meaning. And then you adopt meanings from your family. But still, no, not really. You figure it out. Your family, they may give you this scenario to teach you certain meanings. But you're the one who figures out what it means to be hungry. Your family just decided to feed you or not feed you. So they created a context where you might learn that meaning more deeply, sooner and faster. If they're negligent and they don't feed you, you're going to find out very well what it means to be hungry, to be thirsty, to be cold, to be hot, to need changing. You're going to know what that means. And you're never going to forget what that means on a fundamental level, even if you're not thinking about it as an adult. You may become an adult who is never hungry again. But if you had a family, that parents or whatever, that had you hungry as a child, you will never forget what it means to be hungry on a subconscious level. And you'll probably organize your life to avoid it. If you can. You might be like an obsessively you might pursue a lifestyle of scarcity, or pursue a lifestyle where you need to make sure you have what you need to survive more than anyone else would pursue that lifestyle. And it may be to your detriment because you knew the meaning deeply of hunger, but also you can know the meaning of love. Your family could give you the context to know the meaning, the deep, not just the meaning in the dictionary, the meaning in reality, in experience of what love is. To feel love, to actually look at someone, or to be looked at by someone, to be held by someone, or to hold someone, to make a contact with a person or a scenario, with something, even an animal, a situation, an idea. These things can all be loved. And to know the meaning of that is to experience it. To know the meaning of hatred and anger. So we got to create our own meanings, because these are just words I'm saying. The actual experience of these things are only felt in reality and cannot perfectly correlate to any word. Cannot. There's so many varieties of these feelings and of these thoughts and of these experiences. They're as unique as we are. And just like we have words to describe who we are, we have words to describe these experiences. But just like the words are limited and the experiences are infinite, so are we. We have names, but we are not our names fundamentally. Bob. How many Bobs do you know? Does Bob give any information as to who you're talking to? Brandon? How many Brandons do you know? I mean, they're useful names, of course, but they're words that we use to describe limitless, infinite number of iterations of humans, infinite iterations of experiences, and we say it's love? Yeah, it's love. But it's love felt in a moment by an individual who may never feel that same exact form of love, and it may not have been the same as anyone else's experience of love.